Several dozen hobgoblin marauders converge on your position.
There are too many of them. What are we going to do?
I've never run from a fight, but maybe just this once.
Okay, if you choose to flee, I'm going to run it as a skill challenge.
A skill challenge? What's that?
Basically, you just need to succeed on 3 skill checks before failing in order to get away. You'll catch on pretty quickly. Wizard, you see a river up ahead of you. What do?
I cast control water to part the river.
Okay, that's a success. Barbarian, you notice there's a whole lot of trees around.
I use my athletics to knock over a tree behind us, blocking the path.
Alright, that's 2 successes. Noob, do you have an idea for a skill to use?
What is happening right now? Perhaps you should cast a spell.
Throw a rock.
What are you guys even talking about? Where in the rules is that?
Sorry, you're probably gonna need this one actually. That was a skill challenge. Skill challenges are a really useful tool for creating cinematic and engaging scenes. In a skill challenge, success is not determined through literal strength of arms, as in combat, but through creative thinking and luck. The way I run them is pretty simple. The DM first describes the challenge that must be overcome. A rickety old bridge is the only way to cross the wide ravine. The DM then determines how difficult this particular challenge is going to be. This is the number of successes the party needs to accumulate before accumulating 3 failures. An easy challenge would have 3 successes, while an extreme challenge might require 12, with many falling somewhere in between. Based upon the specific situation, the players volunteer different skills they have that might help them progress. If you are running a skill challenge for the first time, I'd suggest you provide at least 2 specific examples of skills that could apply. That way it helps spark creativity for all of the other players. There is some disagreement online whether the best way to run a challenge is to make it explicit, there is a challenge occurring, or to have it all be narrative, with only the DM aware of the mechanics. I personally prefer the former over the latter, mostly because I, as a player, like to be informed as to the mechanical significance of what's going on. Knowing we are only one bad roll away from total failure really ratchets up the tension, and I've never found that making mechanics explicit has impeded my ability to roleplay, but I know it can for some people, so do whatever you think fits for your table. I give the players a lot of creative latitude to use their skills to come up with interesting ideas for how a particular skill might apply, and might help them progress. In this scenario, I typically ask for somewhat detailed descriptions, that way it's easier for me to build on success or failure and add detail to the building narrative. Because ultimately, it's up to the DM to determine if a skill can be attempted and how difficult that attempt will be. The difficulty of each check should be reasonable based upon character level and how obscure the skill they are trying to use is. So for levels 1 to 4, DCs of 12 to 15 are good for anything typical, while something easy might only have a DC of 10, and something more obscure might have a DC of 17. I'd be sure to let a player know approximately how difficult the skill they are trying to use is before they roll. You don't need to give them the DC, but at least use language like easy, moderate, and difficult. Any character can attempt any skill, but each individual can only attempt each skill once. The other thing a player might do is use an ability, spell, or feature to modify the results. They might cast a spell like Charm Person, which, if successful, would grant that player advantage on, say, an intimidation check against a guard trying to let them into the gates. Additionally, some abilities can be used to cancel out a failure or grant an automatic success, based upon context and what you think is reasonable. If the wizard casts a situationally relevant, high-level spell, I'd probably just mark that as an automatic success. If the spell is relevant, but doesn't seem like it would guarantee a success, you can also have them roll a spellcasting check, and treat it like any other skill. Another thing to note, I don't allow the help action during a skill challenge, and I'd limit how often a PC can cast spells like Guidance. Guidance is such a great spell that unfortunately can be slightly problematic at some tables, because it is basically 0 opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is the hypothetical loss from taking one action over another. Guidance costs nothing to cast, aside from an action and your concentration. It's a cantrip, and in return, you or someone else gets to add a d4 to an ability check, which, as I explained in my Math of D&D video, is essentially a 12.5% increase to their roll. If every character in a skill challenge is getting that bonus, it's going to become very easy for them. So the rule that I use is that a character can only cast Guidance once, but can cast it once more after each PC has made at least one attempt at a skill. An optional rule I don't use, but you may want to use if you feel like 1 or 2 players are monopolizing a challenge, is to go around the table in turn and have each player make one check. Some players may be a bit confused by the challenge the first time you use it, or they might be a slightly passive player, so asking them to think creatively will be putting them on the spot. This might be able to get them out of their shell, or it might make them uncomfortable. So it's up to you and your table if that's the way you want to run it. One of the great things about skill challenges is that they have several fail states built into the design. If the heroes only succeed, things go off without a hitch. 1 or 2 failures means they succeed but with some consequences. 3 failures though, it's Skill challenges are also a great way to run chases in a much more dynamic way than literally counting squares of movement like in a combat. If the party is running away from an orc tribe, for example, failure would probably lead to them fighting their pursuers. 1 failure means it's just the scouts they have to fight, 2 failures means it's the scouts plus a patrol, and 3 failures means it's a whole warband. And skill challenges can be used to model all sorts of things: complex negotiations, stopping a necromancer's ritual, or even research to uncover some ancient secret. Now, your reaction to that might be, dope, what if everything was a skill challenge? Which I would caution against. It might be exhausting to do more than about 1 per session, although to be totally honest, I've never tried. And at the table, there are a ton of sequences where without using these rules, a group will make a series of skill checks in which an individual failure was not fatal, and the DM weighed the outcome based upon the cumulative success, which in truth sounds an awful lot like a skill challenge, without technically being one. Like in my friend Spencer's game, we snuck into the villain's mountain fortress via a sequence of skill checks without using these rules. Or in my other friend Evan's game, we did use these rules to sneak an orc through a human town, but did not use them when we later fled from some other orcs. Would those sequences have been better if we had or had not used these rules? I don't know, but I will say this: skill challenges are absolutely a great way to organize and add mechanical crunch to those scenes. Yeah, they make us conscious we are playing a game, but so what? We are playing a game. Challenges were first introduced in 4th edition, but were dropped for 5th edition. One of the reasons it isn't in 5e was that the version in 4e originally was a bit underdeveloped. And a lot of my information for this video comes from Matt Colville's video on the subject, which is in the description, along with some other resources I used. I hope you guys have found this video useful. Please comment below with any skill challenges you guys have used or plan on using in the future. Peace out.